Oh, what's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 66 of the Stand Up Guys podcast. I'm your host, the incomparable Zach Jones, joined as always by the hypnos to my Thanatos, Lester Jones.
That means nothing to me.
Nor me. But apparently they're mythological brothers. I actually put myself down because I have no idea what their gimmicks are at all.
Hypnos
Hypnos is the straight one.
I think, isn't Thanatos like the Gargoyles villain?
Thanatos. I'll look it up while you keep going.
I'm not sure I want to know. And let's see. We also got the Ninth Wonder, Chocolate Thunder, the Prince of Principles, the Earl of Ethics. He never steals. He never curses. He only fingers prison purses. The phenomenal AJC.
Ooh, we got a new one. New one this week.
No, I have done that one before.
Oh, yeah?
Have you?
I have.
I don't remember
just
that
one
Oh,
before.
okay.
There will be a new one next week.
Ooh, next week. All right.
Interesting. I'm very eager to hear that. A prison purse is a butthole? Is that basically what that is?
Yes.
Okay.
You are correct.
Oh, the personification of death.
Is which one?
Thanatos.
Oh, okay.
What was the other one?
Hypnos. It's got to be where hypnotizing comes from, right?
Yeah, right?
Now, for you guys watching, just know, I always forget to lead this with this when we review movies. We will be doing a review of Dune. Both will give our spoiler-free impressions and then kind of a deep dive into the plot.
Hopefully not too deep, though.
Oh, balls deep.
So for you, not very deep.
Like half an inch.
Within reason. Let's see. What you guys do anything else this week or watch anything else before we get to that?
I just continued to watch Ghosts. It's that show with Rose McIver in it.
What's the basic plot of that show?
McIver.
Every time that show that name triggers me. The show, what's it about?
Yeah.
So basically, this girl and her husband move into she's left like a big mansion type house. And they move into it. They try to turn it into a B&B, and she has like a near-death experience while moving into the house. So the house is already occupied by a bunch of ghosts, but nobody can see them normally. But she has this experience, and now she can see them. And it's just different personalities of the ghosts and stuff. Well, there's like did you ever watch Arrested Development?
No, not really, no.
Well, there's a character on the show called Tobias who's like, he's gay, but he doesn't know it, you know? So everything he does and says, like, portrays that he's gay, but he's always like, I don't understand how you guys think I'm gay. So there's a character like that in this show. He's like a former military general or something, and he's like very, festive, and there's like a Viking, and there's all kinds of different backgrounds to these people, so they can pretty much like make an episode about anything, really.
Now, is this a comedy, a drama, a dramedy?
It's a comedy.
Okay.
Yeah, no laugh track, thank God. But yeah, I don't know. It's
Just say no laughs.
there are very few laughs, but I like the show. It's just lighthearted, It's just a silly comedy. So yeah, I like the actors in it too. So yeah.
And you?
Oh yeah, I watched a big week for me. I watched a season of Lock and Key.
You watched the whole season?
Yeah, I watched the second season.
Damn, how many episodes?
I don't remember, but it was pretty good.
I'll get to it eventually.
I think better than the first season. So if you're into Lock and Key, it's they're swinging. Like they started deviating from the books, and they're going for it though.
Oh, okay.
And then I watched a couple episodes of season 3 of the Dune Patrol, which kind of wrapped up the awkward second season, and is kind of doing its own thing now. But there's some weird shit in that show. So
yeah, I want to get to that. I'm gonna finish up what I'm watching, then that's the next thing I'm gonna watch.
yeah, because I think that there's like 7 episodes are out, and then I think there's 3 more will finish in November sometime. So that'll be on my playbook.
But you're liking that as well so far?
Yeah, I mean it's been pretty solid. And I don't know, it's just fun and stupid
And weird.
and weird.
Well, since we got the HBO this month, I picked up Titans again. I'm watching Titans season 3. I will say, I think this season went down in quality. Some of the writing just doesn't make a lot of sense, and like, this is, I guess, kind of a spoiler for anyone who's like really like shy of spoilers, but like, in 2 episodes, they basically cram in like the death and rebirth of Robin from the comics. I'm like, you got a TV show. Why would you like? You got a medium where you can like stretch things out and you like condense a storyline like that. So much. I don't know. It just seemed kind of weird to me. Plus, the actor they got that's playing Jason Todd in this series, like, I think I've come to the conclusion that he's just not very good.
Yeah, I watched like a couple episodes. I didn't get super into it.
I actually liked the first couple seasons, but this one's losing me a little bit, I must say. I also watched, DC, they do those like kind of animated features that are about an hour and a half a piece.
I mean, I know some of the Batman ones.
Yeah. So another one of those was on their The Long Halloween. They adapted that.
Scarecrow?
Is Scarecrow in it? I'm trying to think.
Who wrote those? Loeb, maybe?
Yeah. Loeb wrote them, and Tim Sale did the artwork in the original. Anyway, it's a famous graphic novel, and this one, it was actually long enough that they adapted it into 2 of those. So it's about 3 hours in total if you watch both of them. For people that have read the graphic novel, they kind of deviate from the book so that you don't know everything, which I appreciate. And it was enjoyable. Most of those, like, they're pretty cheap on the animation.
Right.
Like, it's not the best looking thing of all time. I'm very curious. Like, apparently, like, Bruce Timm, who was one of the people that helped make the original Batman the animated series, like, they had this little featurette at that Fandom thing that I didn't talk about before, where like they're making a new Batman show. I think they're just going to call it like Cape Crusader, but kind of similar thing. It sounds. He says they'll probably go a little bit darker than they did, in the '90s, just because they have the freedom to. Like, I hope they don't go like super R-rated or anything. Maybe just because I do think that the original Batman animated series had a pretty good tone. Like, kids could watch it, but it was a serious show.
Yeah, it was I'd say almost a perfect balance.
Yeah. So I hope they don't just like add a bunch of like fucks into it or something, like, right,
just for the sake of doing it.
Just maybe like the same tone, but maybe, slightly darker storylines, or maybe they can probably show blood, which was
that was a big thing.
Yeah, if you watch the very first episode of Batman the Animated Series called On Leather Wings, like, there's a short point where he gets a bloody nose, and like after that, like, the studio people said no more of that.
Man,
so they got away with it once.
Yeah, that's tough. I know, like, famously, like, Samurai Jack, they weren't allowed to do blood, and so they turned it into robots and whale.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be epic. So
it was still great. But yeah, that was a good workaround.
Yeah.
Everybody's a robot. Of course, they eventually got to do that, like, season 5, where they were able to get a little bit more adult, too. That's a great show, man, Samurai Jack.
Very solid, yeah. Maybe one of the best cartoons out there. Batman the Animated is also super.
Yeah, I mean, Batman the Animated Series is fantastic. Well, that's all I watched. Do you guys want to get into Dune, or you guys want to talk about anything else before we get into Dune?
Let's see where we can get to before we go into Dune, and then we'll
or do you want to
move through Dune at an appropriate speed?
Well, I feel like Dune's these movie reviews usually take longer than we think, so maybe we should do Dune first and then see if you...
I mean, if we hit all the plot points, yes, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I don't know if it's super conductive to it. Like, I wonder if it's just going to be like we should try to keep it sweet and short, but...
I mean, We can do what you want. Do you guys want to do a story before we get into it? I'll leave it totally in your guys' hands.
Yeah, I got a couple lighthearted stories.
I got one.
Okay, I'll let you guys do whatever you want, and then we'll get into it.
Okay. Start with me?
Yeah. Yep.
Hundreds of people took to the streets the other day to raise awareness of a condition that affects a lot of people. We're talking, of course, about people with tiny penises. Okay, so it's clearly a joke, but that didn't stop quite literally hundreds of people walking through Pershing Square in Los Angeles to attempt to lessen the stigma around penis size. This small dong march saw both men and women waving around placards with slogans on them, more on those later, offering support to those who maybe aren't packing quite as much as others in the trouser department.
Like, I wouldn't be lining up to be holding one of those signs.
No.
I want to find these women that are holding the sign.
Yeah.
Be like,
Maybe that's a strategy. So you don't feel bad at all about small penises.
she's like, I'm just showing my support.
Yeah, I still hate them.
Yeah.
I'm here emotionally, but not physically.
They chanted "End Small Dong Shame." This whole bizarre affair was dreamt up by YouTube stars Chad and JT, who co-host the Chad and JT Go Deep podcast and have a following of around 175,000 subscribers. It's an issue that people clearly care about, and they've staged other events of this nature aimed at supporting the small donged. Recently, the pair hosted the Small Dong Art Show, whatever that was. A couple of days before the planned demonstration in LA, the duo issued a call for people to show up, whether they've got a small dong or a large or average dong, or even no dong whatsoever. It takes everyone to get involved for a movement to truly take off. In a Twitter video, JT said, "This is real. We need you there. I know some people are embarrassed to show up, but if you have a small dong, the truth will come out." So own that truth. You can be an ally too. If you show up because if you don't have a small dong or even a dong, show up because we want to see you there. The real star of the show was the catchy and witty placard slogans that some carried around on the day. Things like "Jesus had a small dong" and "All dongs are equal," that sort of thing. Okay, so it's not exactly comic genius, but as a stunt, you'd have to admit it's pretty well executed. Still, much fun was had by all, and perhaps they managed to convince even one person that having a small penis is fine, though have served their purpose. Either way is content.
I mean, this is where we're at as a society. We need to, we don't have anything to actually be enraged about.
Well, this doesn't sound like outrage.
Yeah,
though. It's just like...
I mean, okay, so still there's no better channel for our energy.
No.
It's like, oh yeah, we have the largest prison population on Earth that's horrible to black people. It's like, oh yeah, maybe now that you mention it,
But that's like a
maybe
bummer.
we should look at this.
That shit's sad. This is funny.
It's like nobody wants to deal with this. Come on.
By the way, why can't our tax dollars go to finding a cure for small dick?
Yeah, don't people have to pay extra for Viagra and stuff?
I don't know.
We need this dick research. I'm sure they've been working on this, though, from my emails, my spam emails.
Jeff Bezos needs to stop paying money to go to the space in his dick rocket, and he needs to put his money into funding a real dick rocket.
Jeff Bezos. Now, regarding that, is Elon Musk technically the only one who's shot something into outer space? Because I thought I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson say technically, Bezos and what's the Virgin
Shatner?
Branson,
Oh.
they didn't technically make it to outer space or something.
I heard Shatner was in space for 3 seconds when he sent him out there. Tops 3 seconds. So I don't know if that's how much he was out there for himself.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why does Neil deGrasse Tyson got to harsh everybody's mellow? Man?
Technically, that's not outer space. It's the upper atmosphere.
Technically, Pluto's not a planet.
Neil deGrasse.
All right, manifesto.
Okay. Here's just a short one. So Powerball was like 700 million or something. You know how reporters go around and they give everybody the hypotheticals oh, if you won, what would you do? So they're going around this is live, and she's asking him to do this. He's like, well, I'm definitely going to get a new supercharged Mustang with dual exhaust and about 5 kilos of cocaine, and then I'll be good to go. I was like, yeah, this guy, you know,
He knows how to live life.
he knows what he's doing. He's out there living his best life.
Skiing the slopes.
I've never done cocaine, but 5 kilos, that should last like a lifetime, right?
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to buy it all at once because that sounds like you're setting yourself up for being arrested for a very long time. But, just pace yourself. It's like, I got a Mustang and a bunch of coke.
All right, you guys got anything else you want to hit up before we get into it?
All right, straight to Dune.
Well, no, we don't have to. If you guys got something else you want to do, but this is pretty much the only thing I prepared this week.
All right.
All right, we'll do our best to make it interesting.
All right, so let me bring up the old Rotten Tomatoes for some background here. All right, so Dune, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Actually, let me read the official synopsis. Paul Atreides, a brilliant and gifted young man born into a great destiny beyond his understanding, must travel to the most dangerous place in the universe to ensure the future of his family and his people, as malevolent forces explode in conflict over the planet's exclusive supply of the most precious resource in existence. Only those who can conquer their own fear will survive. The cast includes Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides, Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica, Oscar Isaac as Duke Leto Atreides, Josh Brolin as Gurney Halleck, Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Harkonnen, and Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho. I thought that was a funny character named Duncan Idaho. I was like, hey, I'm Stuart Montana. Or something. I don't know. It just sounded weird.
Johnny Oklahoma.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into any sort of spoiler territory, what did you guys think of the movie? Just your spoiler-free impressions.
I was kind of bored by it. It was okay, though.
I felt it was solid. It's a good mix of action and character development. But, yeah.
This is kind of a hard one to review. I will say, I think I liked it more than you guys. I liked it quite a bit. I think, on the plus side, I think Denis Villeneuve, man, this movie is just like Blade Runner 2049 has some beautiful shots in it. I think just the way it looks and everything, especially the vehicles flying over landscapes. Some of those shots, it just looks fantastic. I think. Let's get the obvious out of the way. This is a part one, Dune part one, and by the way, they just announced yesterday. I think they greenlit part two, and it's slated to come out in 2023. Who knows with COVID and everything if that'll actually happen? But it is good to know that they greenlit it. My one thing is, and having never read the source material, I don't know if there's a better spot they could do it in. But where they ended this movie, it was just like a low energy moment to me. I wish there was something a little more exciting they could have went out on, but not being familiar with the source material, I don't know if that's really possible.
Yeah, I read it 2 decades ago, but yeah, that's probably as good a place as any, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. I wasn't familiar with Dune at all until last year. I watched the David Lynch version that came out in the 80s.
Oh, man.
And it has a lot of the same,
that has Sting in it.
Yeah. It has a lot of the same plot points obviously as this movie. Yeah. But the one thing I didn't like about that movie is it did feel so condensed, because not only did it have most the stuff we see in this movie, it had a lot of stuff on the end that just seemed a bunch of time has passed and all this shit happened, and you're I would have liked to maybe seen some. So I liked it with this version. They are letting it breathe a little more, because you watch that movie and it does feel like they crammed 10 pounds of shit into a 5-pound bag, and so
I don't remember exactly. I want to say this was maybe half of the first book. But the thing is, there's a ton of books. So if they're successful, they could be pumping these out for a while.
So from what I understand, so they're going to do the second one, which will finish like the first book.
Okay.
Now, I was listening to a podcast about it today, and Villeneuve says he'd like to actually do a third one because there's another book in the Dune series I think called like something Messiah. I don't remember.
Probably Messiah of Dune and then Children of Dune.
Messiah of Dune, probably. And I think that one supposedly takes place like, maybe like 10 to 15 years after the events of the first book. So like, I don't know if he does that, if he would actually, wait a period of time. So like Timothée Chalamet can get older or.
No, I doubt that.
I don't know. Maybe he would.
I used to think that as kids, when I was a kid, like I'd see somebody and they'd be like in a movie and they'd be like an adult and then they'd be like, they'd do a flashback of these kids like, wow, they must have like filmed this and then like waited like 20 or 30 years. It's like the dedication of these guys.
But apparently like it sounds like HBO's trying to go like all in because I guess they're going to make an HBO Max series about like the whole Bene Gesserit like sisterhood. And then like, yeah, it sounds like they want to make this like a universe,
Okay, so they're spin-offs and side trails and the whole business. Okay, we'll see.
So it might turn into something. So yeah, it seems like you guys are kind of so on it. I liked it a lot. It's weird because I feel like this movie is like I think heavy on setup. Like I wonder if the second movie will have more action in it. Not that this movie didn't have action in it.
I mean, even with that amount, there's still like a lot of stuff behind the curtain.
Okay, well that's good to know. I'm excited.
I mean, it's like a whole like you got multiple cultures and politics, and I mean, there's a lot of like kind of stuff going on.
All right, so should we go into spoiler territory, guys?
Spoilers.
Us too.
Now, I will say, like, with the other movies we reviewed on this show, like, I usually just watch them once and then try to, remember as best I can, as we kind of go through and break things down. With this movie, I actually watched it a second time and took notes just because there are, like, so many characters and so many factions and, like you were saying, so many, like, political things that like I kind of wanted to jot some stuff down. So before the movie even starts, before the WB logo gets on there, we there's like a little thing where a guy speaks in a foreign language and it translates to "Dreams are messages from the deep," and he does have a lot of dreams in this movie. So the movie starts out. I think we get like a kind of a narration by Zendaya's character that we later find out her name is Chani, I think.
I don't remember.
Chani. I'm not sure. I think it's pronounced Chani. And she basically, she's on this planet Arrakis, which will be the center point of this movie. It's a sand planet. And basically, now this is something I was hoping you'll be, but it sounds like you read the book a long time ago, so I don't know if you'll know this or not. So basically, one of the things that this movie revolves around is on the sand planet, like in the sand, there's this stuff called spice. And the Fremen, who are the natives of this planet, and Zendaya's character is one of them, basically, for a long time now, they've been kind of pushed underground by this group called the Harkonnen, which is kind of like the villains of this movie, basically. And basically, they're mining the spice, and anytime the Fremen try to stand up to them, they just kill them, basically.
Yeah.
And so they're under their thumb. Now, so the stuff they're after, this spice. At one point early on, like Paul Atreides is watching a video, and it says, or listening to this thing, it's talking about it, and it says spice is a hallucinogen with health benefits to the Fremen, and it also turns their eyes blue for some reason.
Right. Yeah. If you've taken it for a while, you get these like bright blue eyes.
Now, I don't know if you. What are the benefits of it? Like, because
I believe
They
like
live longer.
long life, but also there's some like, well, obviously for him he has like some flashes of possible future and stuff. Like he has dreams, hallucinations,
right.
but also apparently like so piloting like an aircraft through interstellar space is incredibly difficult, and like the only way anyone's ever figured out how to do it is by taking spice. Like it opens up your mind enough that you can actually like do this interstellar travel.
Oh,
So that's why it's so
okay.
valuable as like a trade. Like it's like the center of the universe basically because of its properties.
Okay, I'm glad you explained that because the movie didn't really. So I did jot down. It says that the other people use it to find safe spaces between the stars for interplanetary travel, but it didn't say that it was because they were like taking it. So like I didn't know, like if they use it as some sort of fuel in their spaceship. I didn't realize that. Okay, they take it and it
That allows them to pilot. So basically, that's why they say whoever controls the spice controls, basically the universe. There's some direct quote that I'm fucking up, but
And is Arrakis like the only planet they've ever found that has spice on it?
right, that's the only place it exists, and they don't say this in the movie, but I believe it's like worm shit. Like maybe I'm remembering incorrectly,
I mean, that would make sense.
but I
certainly-
might have to look that one up. I should have done some research.
So yeah, after we get that opening, like with her explaining kind of the history of Arrakis, we go to Caladan, which is where. Okay, actually, before I do this, I want to kind of make sure I just got the lay of this land correct. So basically, there's like this interplanetary government known as the Imperium. And it's overseen by some emperor who we never actually see in this movie, but we get the sense that he's a villain.
Right. So this is a bit confusing. I'm trying to kind of remember this. It seems like there's like three main families, and they're all kind of in this power struggle. And so the Empire is kind of like the big one, and they've essentially subcontracted the spice stuff to what is it called? Harkonnens. And so they're kind of like the second one. And then, is it Atreides?
Atreides, yeah.
Atreides, they're the third house. And it doesn't bring this up in the book, and it's kind of confusing because... So what happens is the Emperor takes the Harkonnens out of power, and he tells the Duke, okay, you guys are going to come in now, and you're going to run the spice thing. And almost immediately, the Emperor sides with the person he took out of power, gives him extra troops to go back and kill.
Yeah. And so we'll get to all that.
Yeah, so it's kind of confusing, but like the whole thing, like bringing him into power is like basically a kind of a plot to eliminate him.
Yeah. So yeah, we're at the. So now I'll go back. So yeah, we go to Caladan, which is House Atreides. We're introduced to Paul and his mother, Lady Jessica. And instantly, like, we find out that there's kind of a mysticism in this world. So his mom, Lady Jessica, is part of this kind of weird sect called the Bene Gesserit.
Right, religious order.
Yeah, it's like this religious order, and they can actually do like some mystical things. And so, like, one is like they can use basically a Jedi mind trick
Right.
where they use this voice on people. And actually, that's probably where Star Wars got it from, right? Because I've heard that Dune influenced Star Wars, and the novels came out before Star Wars.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
So very similar to that. Also, I think somewhere along the way they would mention that the big sandworms on Arrakis, they refer to them as the Shai Hulud. So yeah, like you were talking about, so kind of like, I guess, an envoy from the Emperor travels to Caladan, and that's where they transfer power of Arrakis over to Paul's father, Leto, played by Oscar Isaacs. And they say, I have it written down here somewhere. That house is called House Carino. They're from Shaddam 4, I guess. So
that must be the Emperor's family.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that must be. So yeah, the Emperor gives control of Arrakis to House Atreides. Next, we're introduced to Duncan, Idaho, played by what's his name, Momoa.
Right.
And he's basically like kind of one of the top soldiers, I guess, of House Atreides.
Right, and he also is involved in like his training.
Yeah, and so he's tasked. He's going to go to Arrakis about a month before everybody else. Him and his team.
Right, he's supposed to
kind of get
the Fremen, right?
Yeah, meet the Fremen and kind of get the lay of the land, that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And Paul really wants to go with him. But he's like, no, you can't come with me. That'll get me court-martialed or whatever.
Right. And he'd had a dream where, like, he saw Duncan die. And, he wanted to go with him because he said, like, in his dream, he felt like if he'd been there, like, he wouldn't have died or something.
Yeah. And he also dreamed of Zendaya, her character, which he does several times in this movie.
He has quite a few visions of her.
Let's see. So there's a scene between Paul and his father. And this also goes to kind of what you're talking about. So his father believes the Emperor wants to pit House Atreides against the Harkonnens to weaken them. So he kind of knows that the Emperor is like doing this.
So he's not thinking like full on like just betraying him, but actually just trying to get them to pit each other against each other.
Right. So I don't think he doesn't think what's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
But he does know the Emperor is being like duplicitous or whatever and trying to play them against each other. So he knows there's like a political thing going on here. But at the same time, he believes that if the House Atreides can harness the spice, like they can become like, the most powerful house or whatever. Next, we're introduced to Josh Brolin's character, Gurney, another like top soldier, and he's training Paul. Now, question for you guys. So, like, they do this whole thing where everybody has their own personal kind of shield that they can turn on.
Right, yeah.
And it's weird because, like, if they hit each other fast, like, it turns blue, and, like, they got to get to where they can, like, slowly like cut them and it'll turn red and kill them. I didn't really understand it.
There's something like the slow blade penetrates the shield or something. So it's like some kind of like inertia effect. Like if you hit it hard, like it actually like kind of kicks back or whatever. But like you have to like kind of ease it in there.
It just seems like a weird fighting, like fast, slow.
Right. Because it can still like kind of take blunt hits, but it doesn't like, they're not getting like bodily injured, like in the sense of like a cut or something.
No, I heard like that the reason they do this is maybe to have a reason that people would sword fight rather than gunfight.
I mean that makes sense because
although at the end of the movie they do introduce that the Fremen do have some sort of gun. We never actually in this movie see it shot, so I don't know if that gun can penetrate a shield or not.
I don't know. The one guy does he kind of gets shot with a dart or something, and it just kind of like, well, that's the dad. Like he gets the dart is like trying to drill through the shield or something almost.
But, yeah, how'd that get through? Because it came fast.
Yeah, but then it stopped, but it kept like trying to force its way through.
Interesting.
Because it didn't initially penetrate when it was like coming in.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Fast,
That's one of the things I was wondering about is how that got him. So yeah, Gurney he trains Paul.
Now, does it show Gurney die?
That's another question I have. So yeah, later on,
I was trying to remember.
Later on, they get an attack, and we see him like in his group like charging towards the enemy with knives in hand. But then, I don't think we ever see him again. And I don't think it ever tells one way or the other whether he lived or died.
Maybe.
I'm guessing since they didn't show it, he'll probably show up again.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that, like, but yeah, I was trying to remember. It's like, did he die?
It never showed him die.
He just disappeared.
But, obviously the Harkonnens win that fight.
Yeah.
So, like, if he is alive, he would have had to, like, escape to somewhere out on the planet, you would think. So next we take a trip to Giedi Prime, which is the house of the Harkonnens, led by Vladimir Baron.
Who played that? Was it some?
That's Stellan Skarsgård. So he's the guy, like in the Thor movies, that plays like the scientist guy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I will say, like, this guy looks nasty.
Yeah.
But the guy they used in the 80s movie, they made him look even worse. Like, he had like all these boils on him.
Lesions and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. He looked really fucking gross.
He was the Harkonnen leader, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the big guy. And he has like a gravity belt so he can kind of float around.
Oh, I thought that was because he was taking spice or something.
No, that was like a technology thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and like I noticed, like when he moves, like those you can like see those like red things light up in his spine or whatever, like they're helping him like move or something.
Yeah, he's like gigantic, so he's got some kind of support. Yeah.
But he has a quote basically because Dave Bautista's character, I think his name's Raban or something. He's the Baron's nephew, and he's basically pissed off that they took Arrakis away from them, and he's like, "Aren't you mad or whatever?" But then like. The Baron's like, when is a gift not a gift? And he basically he says the Emperor is jealous of Paul's growing power, and basically lays out that this is a plan to like.
Right. So yeah, that's what it seems like. Is like he didn't feel comfortable attacking. Was it Leto?
Yeah.
On his home planet, but he was kind of also thought maybe he was getting too powerful, and so bringing him to Arrakis. But wait, is it Arrakis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, am I confusing this with the planet on Starship Troopers? But
what
was that planet called now?
Yeah, I don't know.
I only saw that movie once. I've
seen that movie like 10 times.
I remember at the time I didn't like it, but maybe I didn't necessarily get all the things they were going for.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't get that it was like making fun of war and it was a satire. Like they did it with all these like good looking actors who like portrayed the characters in a likable way, so people actually thought they were serious. Like, oh, it's a pro-war movie, and I'm like, I'm with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe if I watched it again through an adult lens, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we go back to Caladan. Lady Jessica wakes Paul in the middle of the night to meet with the Truthsayer to the Emperor and Reverend Mother of the Bene Gesserits.
And I don't think we mentioned this, but like virtually everyone in this sect is a female.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or at least it seems that way.
It is, yeah.
Before he meets with the Reverend Mother, we're introduced to Dr. Yue. He checks Paul's vitals, and like we'll get to it, but like he's gonna betray the group, and I get the sense that he's not the smartest guy in the world, but we'll get to that. We also find out that Lady Jessica knows sign language, which she uses a lot during the movie.
It comes up, yeah.
Okay, so she tells Paul, and you can tell like she's like afraid of it, like she's very nervous about this, but she's like, Paul, you got to meet with this lady, and you got to do whatever she says, basically. And she's like, use all the training I've taught you. But so basically, he goes in this room, and she's seated, and like she uses the voice, makes him kneel in front of her, and then she has this box, and she's like, put your hand in the box, and she's like, if you take it out, she has like this poison needle to his neck, and she's like, if you take it out, you're gonna die. I'm gonna hit you with this needle. And basically, the box, like, it's supposed to put him in immense pain. Like, I don't know if it burns his hand or makes it feel like...
Right. And in the book, you can describe this. Like, on the movie, you can't really describe it. But, yeah, basically, like, the sensation that you're all the flesh is being burnt off your hand, and he's just like charcoal in there. It's pretty nasty.
And so while he's going through this, Lady Jessica is like kind of like chanting this thing to herself, which I think is supposed to like kind of like a famous like kind of quote in the Dune series. Like Kevin Smith is like a huge like fan of the 80s Dune, and he's like memorized this quote. So apparently like it's a thing, but she's like, it goes, I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings obliteration. And I'll face my fear, and I'll permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye and see its path. And where the fear is gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. I think he maybe brings
used
up
a couple times.
Yeah. Fear is the mind killer is like kind of a famous thing from it. So after their meeting,
The mother like kind of does like a spell outside the door to help him like get over this pain. It seemed like
I couldn't tell actually if she was actually casting a spell or if she was just like
praying or something.
Yeah,
praying.
no, probably more like a prayer, because I don't think that would have been allowed, basically.
Yeah, I think I took it more as a prayer, and like he was in so much pain that
Right. And later the mom accosts the older woman.
yeah. So that's another. So yeah. So as they're walking out, like after that, like yeah, Lady Jessica and the Reverend Mother have a conversation, and apparently like the older lady tells Lady Jessica that she was only supposed to have daughters, and which is weird to me because like in this future can like they determine like the sex of their baby,
Right.
Like,
So they have a lot of like control and stuff in this sect. Like they have a lot of kind of certain powers and stuff. So it's within her power to have just had a female. But also, I don't know if they really get into this. There is a prophecy, like even though this is all female sect, there's a prophecy that one day there will be a man who will be able to have their powers, and for some reason men generally can't or don't. But and he'll be like a savior of.
yeah, so they do get into that a little bit because basically Jessica says she had Paul and taught him in the ways of the Bene Gesserits in hopes he could become the Kwisatz Haderach. I'm probably mispronouncing that.
Yeah, Kwisatz Haderach.
Kwisatz Haderach. A prophesized person that has a mind powerful enough to bridge space and time, past and future. Now, we'll get to it, but there is, I'm not familiar with the books, but there's some things that happen in this movie that I'm like, is there some weird timey-wimey or past life stuff going on? We'll get to that. Oh yeah, they mentioned that the Bene Gesserits basically try to steer the politics of the Imperium from the shadows.
Right. So they're kind of a shadow hand as well, and they have a lot of power, and people don't fuck with them basically.
There was that conversation where she was talking to the Harkonnens about what would happen to the.
Right, and also they gave some orders to the Harkonnens, and they're like, they wouldn't like betray her because they're like, no, they'll kill us.
So like they're a really like feared and respected group in this world. So like the Truthsayer lady, like she works directly for the Emperor, but I couldn't totally get the sense if like she's totally on the Emperor's side or not.
Yeah, they're kind of their own entity, but I feel like they're more like a Littlefinger. They got their hand in the different pots.
So like they have their own agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So finally, it's time for Paul and his mom and dad and basically the House Atreides to go to Arrakis. So they land on Arrakis, and like instantly, all the Fremen are chanting Lisan al-Gaib towards Paul. So like they've been told that he could be like this Messiah.
I mean, it may have came out that he passed the that test or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And then that's part of the prophecy, I guess, maybe.
From there, they board what they call an ornithopter, or sometimes they call them thopters for short. Now, these I thought looked fucking cool. They kind of look like a dragonfly.
Yeah, it's a dragon. They get in a mechanical dragonfly.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like a helicopter dragonfly.
Yeah.
I thought those things looked badass.
Yeah, they look pretty cool.
And see, this is where I like really think this movie looks cool. Is like these scenes, like these things, like flying through the desert, just like those shots. I'm like, wow, this is movie
Looks
shot
good,
well
yeah.
and looks really good. Let's see. We find out. So they fly the dragonflies from where they initially land to the city. I don't know if the city actually has a name or not, but the city in Arrakis, and they show that the whole city is protected by a shield wall that protects them from the weather and the big sandworms.
Yeah, apparently the worms can't go past this wall.
Although later on in the movie, when we had the whole scene where the worm swallows up the thing that's mining the spice,
Oh, right.
like he asked them, why can't we just put a shield around it? And they're like, oh, the shield drives them crazy.
He's like, that really pisses them off.
So how does the shield around the city not piss them off?
I don't know, but it does have like giant stones going around, so maybe it's like a physical barrier.
Okay. So back in the city, Lady Jessica, she's like, here's some candidates for like house maidens or whatever. And one of them, she singles out her name, weird name. Her name's Shadow Mapes. And like, she's like, everyone else can go. I want to talk to this woman. She sees that this woman has or senses, I guess, that she has a knife on her.
Concealed weapon, yeah.
And she's kind of afraid that this woman might attack her, but the lady's like, no, the knife is a gift. And so she gives Jessica what they call a Chris knife, which is a knife that's fashioned out of the tooth of a sandworm. And apparently, like, they mention this several times in the movie, and like he has visions of basically being handed one of these knives.
Right.
So like it's going to come into play. Now the woman here says that Lisan al-Gaib stands for the mother and the son. I thought it was just the name they were calling him, but
Yeah, I don't know.
so I'm not sure. When she says it like Lisan al-Gaib, the mother and the son. So I didn't know if she was saying that's exactly what it translates into or what. I wasn't quite sure. Next, Paul is watching like a holographic video about Arrakis. It shows like this weird like sand walk people can do to avoid the worms.
Right, the worms are attracted by like rhythmic sounds. So like if you walk a certain way, you sound like it's just the wind blowing sand over the dunes or something.
Yeah. Although it'd be annoying to have to walk a long distance doing that.
Yeah.
And so they also show like this cute little desert mouse in the hologram, and like he goes over there to look at it because he likes the look of it or whatever. And right at that time, like what they call a hunter seeker comes out of the wall, and it's like this little mechanical, like kind of mosquito looking thing but bigger. That's like
It's
supposed
basically
to
like
kill
a
him.
flying poison dart.
Yeah, but it can't quite see him because he's like hidden in this hologram.
Right. Plus, yeah, maybe the optics of the thing are super or
Screwing with it.
something, yeah.
And as it flies past, he like grabs it and crushed it, which they make it sound like maybe that's like a hard thing to do or something, but he did it.
Right, and actually it was being piloted by somebody who'd been like hidden away or something in what was it, like in the plumbing or something? I don't remember.
Yeah, like there was a Harkonnen guy like hidden in the plumbing,
Right,
and he was piloting it.
that thing.
Yeah. So now we get a scene that you referenced earlier. We're back on Giedi Prime, and the Reverend Mother is having a conversation with the Baron and the Polka Dot Man, David Desmalchin, his character, who's like the kind of like, I guess, the number one to the Baron or whatever, his
Right.
right-hand man kind of thing. And they put like this cone of silence around him. And yeah, so she tells him that the Emperor is basically on the Harkonnen side, and they're going to secretly strengthen the Harkonnens with his soldiers called the Sarktikar. He tells the Baron that he can kill Leto, But he must spare Jessica and Paul since Jessica is a member of the Bene Gesserits.
Right.
And like you said, like he agrees to that because he's, I guess, intimidated by her and the Bene Gesserits. But at the same time, as soon as she leaves, like David Smolcian's like, "You're gonna let them live?" He's like, "No, no Atreides can live, but I'm just gonna go toss him out in the desert, and the fucking desert can kill him."
I didn't kill them.
Yeah, exactly.
Plausible deniability.
Exactly. So now, basically, Leto, Paul, and all the military guys are kind of being shown around, and they find out that there's going to be this what they call a judge of the change named Dr. Liet Kynes, and like I think her job is like she's appointed by the Emperor, but she's kind of like transitioning Arrakis from the Harkonnen to them, I think, is kind of her job.
I don't know. I don't even remember this.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly. They were saying that like, but they were talking about how like they have these silos, and for them to, they have to fill these silos with spice like every 25 days or something like that to be successful. Or
right, that's their production goals or whatever.
And anyway, that Dr. Liet Kynes, she's an imperial ecologist, and yeah, I don't know. She's supposed to help them in the transition somehow. Now Jason Momoa comes back. Duncan, Idaho. He lived with the Fremen for like a month because he had been there ahead of time. He was almost killed by one of them, he says, but he had like a hard fight with them and like I guess won their respect or whatever. And so,
buddies.
Yeah, he's been hiding out in what they call a siege with them, and that's what they call like their caves or whatever.
Cave system.
And like apparently, there's around Arrakis, these caves are all over,
plentiful.
And they figured like the Harkonnen thought there was maybe only like 50,000 Fremen, but apparently there's like millions of them.
Right? Yeah, there's different estimates.
We're introduced to like one of their leaders named Stilgar, played by Javier Bardem.
I was wondering if that was him. It looked quite a bit different though. It looks similar, but different at the same time.
You know what? Like, I was like, I know who this is. Who is this? And like, at first I was like, Benicio del Toro? No, that's not right. And then eventually I'm like, oh yeah, okay, Javier Bardem.
I was like, it reminds me of him, but it doesn't look exactly like him.
Yeah, he had kind of a different look. And he like, he spits on the ground like in front of Leto. And at first they like take offense to it, but then they find out that like because water is so rare, like spitting like that is like a sign of respect, like you're giving them your body's precious moisture, you know. And basically like he's like tells Leto that like we're okay with you mining the spice, that's fine, all we ask is that you just leave us the fuck alone. Basically, you don't come into our caves, you leave the Fremen alone. Now, this is one of the things that I was wondering about, like the weird time stuff or past life stuff, because as he's leaving, he says in Fremen dialect, and it like subtitles it, that he recognizes Paul.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that seems like the first time they've met.
I mean, he may also have visions.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that. So maybe the spice gave him a vision of Paul.
Right.
Okay. That makes sense. We're introduced to like some of the equipment they have on Arrakis by Jason Momoa. They have what they call a paracompass, because apparently because of the moon surrounding the planet, like a compass needle will not point true north.
Which is, I mean, what a like needless detail, right? He's like, oh, we can't have compasses. We have to make special compasses, but it works just like a compass.
Yeah. But just so you know. They also have like a sand compactor that can be used to basically distract the worms. Like you plant it in the sand and it like goes...
Right, they're called thumpers.
Thumpers, yeah.
Yeah, so they make a thumping and then the worm's attracted to that.
I think they also have, I don't know if they show it there, but it comes up later, like a sand spreader that like if you're stuck in the sand, like it...
Oh right, yeah, it does something because they'll put out their tents and get covered in sand, so they need like this thing to tunnel out.
To tunnel out, yeah. Okay, so yeah, next we're introduced to like I guess a pretty important part of like what they need is what they call still suits. So these are suits made by the Fremen. They have a filtration system in them that cools the body and recycles sweat. It has a tube where you can drink water, and it makes your body only loses a thimble of water per day while wearing the suit.
Which thermodynamically doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. But anyway. And then they never even wear like the face part of it because they don't want to cover their faces for shooting. So, I don't know.
I don't know if you ever have to take a shit in the suit.
It dehydrates it and just...
You just shit sand.
Yeah.
Dr. Kynes remarks that Paul wears a suit correctly on his first try, like the way he wears like the suit over his boots or something.
Yeah, I don't know
Right,
why
yeah,
that was a big
there was
deal.
some like saying in the prophecy where like he'll like naturally know the ways of the Fremen or something.
Okay.
So like he just instinctively got this one right.
I was like, I'm sure they put that detail in there for a reason.
Yeah.
So now they all get on a ornithopter and like they fly out. So Dr. Kynes is showing them around. They come upon one of their sand harvesters or spice harvesters that's harvesting the spice, and they show that basically each of these harvesters will have like a couple like small scout ships over top looking for worm sign.
Yeah.
And if they see a worm, they'll still harvest like up until the point like the worm gets close. Once the worm gets close, they're going to send these things down that'll attach with anchors and like balloon this heavy piece of machinery up so the worm can't get it.
Okay, I didn't realize they were like trying to take the whole thing with them, I guess.
Well, that's what
maybe they were just getting the spice and the crew or something.
No, they were going to take the whole thing up, and actually, there's a scene I think before that where they actually show one of these things being moved.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. So they were going to take the whole machine because otherwise you're going to lose a lot of money. Yeah. Although, like, so we're getting to it. The worm's going to eat that. Like, these worms, they can digest some big shit, man.
Yeah, it has to be gigantic as well as this like enormous piece of equipment.
What do these worms normally eat?
Like just anything in the sand, I guess.
That's what I was wondering because, like, yeah, I'm sure occasionally they'll eat a Fremen or two, but like
They're 400 meters long.
yeah,
There's probably like little creatures in the sand or something.
those mice. You would think they would run out of food, is what though. If you're that big of a creature, don't you need to eat quite a bit to survive?
Yeah.
I'm wondering the same thing. Like, what are they?
Maybe they're cold-blooded, man. Maybe they don't need that much energy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, this particular one they're watching. So a worm is coming, and the thing comes down, but one of the anchors breaks, so they can't lift the machine. So like the crew is gonna die if they don't help them. So like they send, Paul and Josh Brolin out to kind of go tell the other guys, hey, 7 apiece, go in the different copters or whatever. But Paul, he gets his like first like taste of sand or spice or whatever, and so he starts hallucinating, which causes him almost to die. But as he has a hallucination, like he hears the Kwisatz Haderach awakes, and he also sees a vision of himself being stabbed by Zendaya's character Chani. Jeez. That was loud. And also, the vision shows him that he knows that a knife will be given to him at some point in his journey. All right, so him and Josh Brolin narrowly escape getting eaten, but yeah, we see this huge worm come up and swallow the thing.
Yeah, as they fly away.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting, like he gets high just from like the spice and the sand. So like, what if he got like a full dose of spice? I feel like he's gonna be fucked up for like a month or something. It's like I'm sensitive to the spice.
All this does is get me to normal.
It'll never be like the first time.
I can see the future.
He's always chasing the dragon.
I can see the other end of space. So next he has a scene with his mom, and he can sense that she's pregnant, and she's like, "How did you do that? I barely know that I'm pregnant." I think he also kind of tells her about his vision or whatever, and he kind of sees he also has a vision of her with the new like daughter, like baby, and like I think she has all these weird markings on her face and blue eyes. You know, his
like
mom.
she's a Fremen,
Yeah, like she's a Fremen. Okay. Oh, we get a brief scene on Seleucia Secundus, which is the Imperial Army planet, where we see David Dastmalchian's character, like basically, getting the platoon of the Emperor's Sardaukar soldiers that'll help, take over. So yeah, this is where things start to heat up. So during the night, Leto he hears something, and he like gets up and he's looking out and he sees the shield around the city has come down basically.
Right, and there's like lights or explosions in the distance.
Yeah, so he turns on his shield, and then he sees the what's her name, Shadow Mapes, the house lady. She's like on the ground dead. And at that moment, he like gets hit in the back by something, and we see it's a needle that it gets through his shield, I guess, by like constant pressure against it or something. And then that's when Dr. Yue comes up to him and he's like, "Sorry, man, I didn't want to do it, but I sold you out. The Baron Harkonnen has my wife, and like by doing this, I'll get her back or something." And like, I feel like the Baron is so over the top evil that he had to be fucking stupid to not know that that he was gonna.
But anyway, he's desperate and he sold him out.
Yeah. So as Leto's down, he's like, "Okay, listen, like, sorry about this. Like, you're gonna die, but here's the thing: you got a peg tooth. I'm gonna replace it with this one. Bite down on it. You can breathe poison on the Baron, and you can at least take him out."
Yeah.
Right. Okay. As everything's going down, Paul and Jessica are captured by the Harkonnen, and just like the Baron's agreement earlier, they instead of being killed, they're being taken in a copter out to the desert to where they'll be left to die. Now we get a scene where Jason Momoa can show off his badass skills. He's just killing dudes left and right.
Right.
He steals a ornithopter, and like we get this kind of cool scene where he's like flying around and they're like shooting this laser beam at him, and and like he escapes it though because he's good. This scene was another kind of maybe one of the better like visual moments is this attack, because like you're seeing all these like spaceships explode and fly in, and quite a bit of cool stuff here. And this is like, again, like you referenced earlier, like this is the last time we see Josh Brolin. Like we see him and his group.
Storms off.
Yeah, they're like they're armed with their knives. They're running towards the enemy, and he's like, "On me" or whatever. But yeah, as far as I know, we never see him again.
Okay, yeah, he's probably not dead.
Back on the copter, Paul and Jessica use the Jedi mind trick voice to escape their captures. They end up killing them all. And they find what they call Frem kit that was left by Dr. Yue, because like he does like feel bad about betraying it. Like he does like him, but he's doing it to get his wife back. So, but he leaves him this kit to help him out. It includes the Atreides like house ring, which he took from Leto while he was like giving him the tooth. And it also has a Atreides homing beacon, so that hopefully someone from House Atreides will find them. So yeah, now we go to the Baron. He of course kills Dr. Yue. He's like, yeah, I told you I like put you back with your wife or whatever, and we killed her or whatever. So he rips his head off. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so Leto bites down on the tooth, breathes out. We see a bunch of people, including David Dastmalchian's character, die, and at that point we maybe think the Baron died, but in a couple scenes later, he's not. He flew up it to the roof, and he's like breathing like bad. Like it definitely like injured him.
Yeah, so he like turned on his shield beforehand,
Yeah.
and also like he activated his belt, went up to the ceiling or whatever. But he definitely got like a dose.
So a gas can get through the shield.
I mean, I guess you're still breathing.
Yeah, that's true. You're still breathing.
But yeah, not he didn't take enough to kill him. Although it killed like a bunch of other people in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, you would have thought since he was the closest one.
Right. I think the shield helped.
Yeah, maybe. If I lived in that world, I would just have the shield on constantly, unless it
Right.
runs on batteries or some shit. Let's see. Okay. So now, Paul and his mom are in a tent like through the night, and I found this interesting, but at the same time, I'm not sure I totally understood it. So Paul has this vision of him fighting, I think, like leading the Fremen, like alongside the Fremen, and like he's like a real badass fighter. But then he also like is in fear because he sees this holy war spreading across the universe, a religious warrior race of Atreides killing in his father's name. So like I was confused because that all meshed together. Is he like saying that he's fighting against that faction?
I'm
or
not 100% there either. But like the thing about like his visions is like he sees things that like could be. So
yeah, because I'll get to that. There's a moment where he sees something that then is immediately like contradicted later on. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly how his visions work, but I guess that's kind of the fun of the movie, is seeing how that plays out. There's a scene where Duncan finds that Kynes lady, and like I don't remember exactly what their scene is. He's kind of mad at her, but at the same time allows her to come with him on the copter. And then he finds Paul and Jessica, and that's the scene where they use that sand spreader because the tent got covered in sand, and they dig their way out. Kynes brings them to an old station that she says was originally meant to free the water from under the sand. So apparently there is water in the world. They were going to free the water from the sand, but then basically when the people found out how valuable the spice was, they shut that station down so they couldn't do it or whatever because they want the spice, right? So I found that kind of interesting that at one point they were working towards like bringing the water to the surface.
Right.
It was kind of interesting. Now there's a conversation between Paul and Kynes. Paul suggests that he should become the emperor. He mentions like the emperor doesn't have any sons and his daughters aren't married.
Right, he talks about marrying like a daughter or something.
Yeah, and that might be like the best way to like, you know, end the conflict or whatever. Next, the Sardaukar attack. We get another scene with Jason Momoa like being a badass, and he kills a bunch of guys, but they do eventually get him down.
Yeah.
Old Duncan.
Dunk.
Paul and Jessica escape on a thopter. So Kynes agrees that basically she's going to report what's happened here because she's going to expose that the Emperor used his soldiers to play against House Atreides, which of course he's not supposed to do. But basically, as soon as she leaves, she's stabbed by one of the Emperor's soldiers. They're about to kill her, and she basically just uses the sandworm. She like rhythmically beats on the ground to attract the worm, and it comes up and gets them all. So she's dead, but she at least was able to take out the guy that stabbed her. Let's see. Paul and Jessica escape some jet fighters that are coming after them in a dust cloud. But then they crash land, but they survive.
Right.
We get a scene with the Baron and Dave Bautista. Apparently, the way to heal the Baron who breathed in poisonous gas is that he gets in like this chocolate mud bath.
Yeah, big mud bath.
I don't know how that heals him, but
Yeah, he's not completely healed.
yeah, he's in the process though. And he basically, I think he tells Batista basically, start selling spice, sell it slowly so like the price stays up.
Yeah.
Because that's what we need right now is money, and kill all the Fremen basically. So yeah, now Paul and Jessica are in search for the Fremen. They can safely stay on rocks because the worms can't get them there.
Yeah, it's like Tremors.
Yeah. But otherwise, when they travel between the rocks, well, apparently, this is another thing. Is like part of the movie, like they'll just be walking normally, but then he's like, "Oh, this is worm country,"
Right.
So now we got to do the sand walking. I don't know exactly how he tells what's worm country.
Right.
Like maybe it's more wavy or something. I don't. Why would the worms just like stay in certain parts? Is it too rocky underneath?
Well, that's kind of what I assumed is it's bedrock at some places.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do the weird little sand walk to avoid them. Okay, so this is where he has a vision that's contradicted. So he has this vision of this black guy named Jamis, and who in the vision is a friend of his, like basically showing him like, the ropes of Arrakis or whatever, and like the Fremen ways. But then I'll just skip ahead. Basically, they find the Fremen, and he gets in a fight in this guy and ends up killing him.
Right.
So like in pretty short order, like we're like, well, that vision wasn't quite right.
Right. Well, didn't he have like part of his vision was the other guy killed him? Or am I remember? I don't know.
That was part of it too.
But then there was also some quote was like,
because he's like,
if you kill somebody, you kill yourself or something.
Yeah, I might have written that down, actually. Let me go back. So Paul and Jessica, before they get to the Fremen, they narrowly escape a sandworm. It almost gets them. So yeah, they find the Fremen, which includes Stilgar, which was Javier Bardem, Jamis, the black guy, and Chani, which is Zendaya's character. Jamis is immediately hostile and tries to kill Paul. Paul has a vision of him being killed so he can rise again as the Kwisatz Haderach. So yeah, basically the vision is he's stabbed and dies, but that allows him to be reborn.
Right, okay.
Chani gives Paul a crysknife, or at least I think it was a crysknife. So then Paul and Jamis get in a fight. Paul ends up killing him. And he doesn't really want to, like, he has several opportunities where he can kill him, but he's like trying to get him to stand down.
Right.
But Javier Bardem's like, no, we don't do that. So he ends up having to kill him. And basically after that, he's accepted by the Fremen as one of their own. And Paul and the Fremen walk into the desert. As they do, they see... And this is something that I knew was going to happen at one point because it does happen in the 1980s movie. The Fremen like know how to actually ride the worms. Like they use these two like kind of hooks. And put them in there. Chani says this is only the beginning, and we fade to credits.
Yeah, desert power.
Yeah, desert power. So yeah, this is. I kind of feel like if the second movie lands well, I think people will appreciate this movie more. I think it is a little bit hard when you only see half the story, though, to judge a movie when you only have half the story.
I think it's pretty good.
But yeah, I did like it a lot. But I can't see why some people would be bored with parts of it, just because it is kind of a slow burn in some points. And like there are like the long scenes of them walking through the desert. Is that kind of what got you like?
Yeah. I was, after enough seeing them in the desert, I was like, all right, I think I just fell out of love with the whole, visual appeal of the movie at that point.
Okay. Like, what parts of it would you say you liked the best?
I don't know.
Did you like the more actiony parts of the movie, like when they're attacked and stuff like that?
Yeah, I liked a lot of the new introduction of like technology and stuff too. The visual appeal of it at first, it was really cool. So that stuff got me going.
Yeah, I might have to go back because I think there's a couple of this director's movies that I've seen a lot of them, but I think maybe a couple that I haven't seen. But he is a talented guy. Like I certainly don't like this movie as much as Blade Runner 2049, but you definitely see. I definitely saw some things in that movie that kind of, from a visual standpoint, reminded me of Blade Runner 2049 that I liked. But yeah, I'm definitely up for when part 2 comes out.
Yeah, I'll still watch the next part. I think so much happens in these books. This was mostly just setting up the rest of the story, so I'm still interested in that.
Now, did you remember the book well enough that you weren't surprised by anything in this movie, or?
I mean, I'm sure there was stuff I didn't remember and still stuff I didn't catch, but
And there could be differences.
on the whole, I don't remember anything insanely different.
Okay. All right. So, boy, I guess we're to the judging area already. Guys, where would you rate this movie? Scale of 1 to 10.
I'd give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, probably 7.5, 8.
I'm going to go 8. I liked it. And like I said, as long as the second movie doesn't shit the bed, like I kind of think people will appreciate this first one more. You know what? That didn't take as long as I thought it would, but we are over the hour mark.
Although it would have sucked if they made this one and then they're like, oh, it didn't do quite well enough, so we're not going to make that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would suck.
It's not like a valid movie all by itself, maybe.
But I do kind of wonder how long they've known they were going to greenlight it, because
yeah, it would have seemed better to do some of those ones where they shoot multiples at the same time.
well, that is cheaper, but at the same time, if this movie did shit
really
the bed,
shit it.
or did really shitty,
They could get away from it.
yeah, it would have been quite a bit more expensive having the other half shot. But yeah, I was happy with this movie, and if they want to make it a HBO series about the witch ladies, I'll watch that too.
I'll watch anything if it gets good ratings.
Yeah. What other famous sci-fi books do you think they could do that they haven't done yet?
There's a fantasy one called Gormenghast I would really like to see. There's a guy named China Mayville, and he's written a few pretty fantastic sci-fi fantasies that were really pretty solid, although they would be exceptionally heavily on visuals and the computer department, I'm sure.
He actually, I want to say, wrote a DC book, this obscure character called Dial H for Hero. I didn't read it. It's supposed to be pretty weird, I think.
Well, I've had mixed results. He had a time period where he did some books I really liked, and since then he's done some that I didn't really care for. So, but there's definitely some solid stuff there.
Do you think Gormenghast or whatever has the potential to be a big sprawling universe like they're trying to do with Dune?
It's more it's a castle setting with maybe not a huge cast, but some very interesting characters. But I'd say it'd probably make 2 or 3 movies.
Okay, but that's more fantasy than sci-fi.
I would place that more in the fantasy department. I was just trying to think. I'd love to see Stranger in a Strange Land. I think that would make it great.
I'm surprised they've never done that, because even though I don't really know what it's about, I've definitely heard it referenced a lot, and I know it's popular.
I wonder if there was a shitty version at some point, shittier than anyone cares. to know or talk about. But
I think there was actually a Dune like sci-fi series or something that I never saw. That's probably bad.
Yeah, I watched that. It was pretty bad.
right, someone was telling me about that, and also like the thing was, I thought it was a movie because I remember seeing a trailer, which I guess may have been for that series.
Oh, that could be.
And yeah, I thought that had just apparently shit the bed or something.
So you actually saw a part of that series?
Yeah. That sci-fi was really pushing it in like 2000 or something. I don't know what year it was, but it was bad.
And I was trying to remember some other sci-fi I've read because I have read some pretty great sci-fi. Blood Music by, I want to say Greg Bear was really good. Grass, Sherry Tepper. That one's kind of like sci-fi / religion, so that's kind of an interesting one.
You know, I was
no, I'm confusing that one with a different one actually. The Sparrow is also very good.
You know what I was wondering about the other day, because like I was thinking about it, because I've heard a lot of people that like classic Star Trek like really don't like the more current Star Trek stuff.
Right.
And a part of me was wondering, like, is it possible that there was more good sci-fi like back in the 60s because there was more like civil and unrest and social issues that you could speak to in sci-fi? It was more interesting because like
I felt like in that day and time, it definitely there was a lot more of kind of tackling social issues through sci-fi, which is kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, if you think about it, like the reason Star Trek was so kind of groundbreaking back then is because like they would talk about things like racism, and you know they had the first interracial kiss,
right?
And you know, but I feel like now, because our society is basically pretty fucking accepting, that it's not there's not as much to really like talk about.
Right, you're not cutting edge anymore.
Yeah, because like I watched the first several seasons of Star Trek Discovery, and it's fine. But like, for example, they had this trans character on there, and they had the whole thing where like the character wanted to be referred to by the them pronoun or whatever. But I'm like,
which I do hate the plural.
It sounds weird grammatically, yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, I guess it's fine to talk about that, but I'm like, if Star Trek takes place like, you know, hundreds of years in the future, like they wouldn't give a fuck about this for a long time.
Right.
Like, and like you can, and the thing is even if you like made an alien race as an analog to talk about the trans stuff, like still, like even though there is transphobia in our society, like it's not as rampant, I don't think, as like you would maybe think from like social media and things. Like I think we're pretty accepting, and so like I don't know, like I was kind of wondering, like, well, maybe it was the sci-fi in the 60s and stuff was more interesting just because they had more things to talk about.
I mean, I think that is interesting. I think if you look at today, maybe if you look at something like South Park, they tackle a lot of social issues, and it's a very different medium, but it's you know, it does give a freshness, I feel like. Oh, another great one is Ian M. Banks. He has a gigantic universe.
I've never
like they could do a ton of stuff there.
I don't think I've even heard his name. What's he written?
So there's like a kind of a utopian society in the future called Phlebos, but they're also kind of I almost want to say American in some ways. They're kind of imperialistic almost, and it's not all, you know, great, but a lot of just stuff going through the universe and different characters, and I don't know. He's got like, it's a lot of books, and I haven't read all of them, and I don't know. It's been a few years. He died of like cancer, I guess. He felt like a lump in his side, and it was like when he went and got checked, he was way gone, and he died like shortly after.
My boss, like, he likes to read, but he says like he doesn't even really like to start books unless they're a part of like a huge series that he can get into.
Right. The thing is, like the Wheel of Time, the guy died before he finished, or like the George R.R. Martin, where you're like, "Come on, buddy, you can make it."
Yeah, he's getting
You
up
just
there.
finished before you like
He's
tip
not
over.
even trying to finish, man.
It's stalled. Like it's been. How long has it been? Is that he's been expecting book 6 for a decade? I don't even know how long.
I don't need to drink like a bottle of wine a day or something. Like,
That's how I'm gonna write.
The thing is, that's supposed to keep you alive longer because it thins out your blood and your heart doesn't
He's a
have to
big
work.
guy, so his heart needs a little help.
he could
maybe.
use it. Yeah.
Isn't he supposed to actually write 2 more books in that series though? And he's
He has.
Is he still working on Winds of Winter?
Well, the thing is, I think he's written a lot of it, but he's still like tweaking and like shifting things around. But yeah, 2 more books. I think 6 and 7.
You know what would be funny is if he ended it exactly how the TV show. He's like, "Fuck you guys."
He's just like, I give up. let's just put this thing out.
Yeah. He could easily just light those on fire, his 2,000 pages that he wrote.
He's like, "I like how it ended."
Bran did have the best story. Ugh.
All right, guys.
Did you hear about that spin-off show that they're making? Like, nobody really wants to watch it right now.
I mean, I heard
about
it.
Becker.
Oh, Becker spinoff. Boy, what we could do with that.
It's all about the blind black guy
I'd watch it.
and people who are racist toward him. That he thinks are his friends.
They keep hiding us shit from where did I leave my phone? I don't know.
You know, there's actually an episode where like he meets a blind girl, and like they have this whole discussion where at first they don't even realize that the other person's blind, and then like they go out on a date and where he realizes that she's blind, and he's like, "Boy, I don't know if I want to date another blind person. You know, it sounds like a bad life or whatever, right?" But then they have this conversation, and he's like, "Man, I'm sorry. At first I thought you were blind, and that made me not want to continue our relationship." But he's like, "I do want to give it a go." But then like during that conversation, like she finds out he's black, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were black, and I'm a huge racist." She doesn't actually say that, but basically, yeah, she's racist. And so she leaves him. I'm like, God damn.
That took some twists and turns.
So in conclusion, watch Becker. Watch Dune and then follow it up with Becker. It's a good double feature. All right. Well, anybody watching, thank you very much. Make sure to, like us, subscribe both to the YouTube channel and on your podcast service of choice. Leave us 5-star reviews, all that good stuff. And why not follow us on Twitter, guys? Where can people find you on Twitter?
I'm at a name for this too, and that's number 2.
At Unsolicited SUG.
And you can find me at Zach Jones Live. That's ZachJonesLive. And that is going to do it for all of our shenanigans and poppycock this week. Please, please, please tune in again next week. Bye, guys.
Take care.
Have a good one.